Bilingual Web Magazine. Dig Tokyo. Music and Parties 11. The Country Rock and Blues Rock of the 1970s. An Introduction to West Coast Rock 4. 1. The Country Rock Sound of Southern California. The 70s in California were defined by bands like the Eagles and the Doobie Brothers. While these bands were from the same West Coast that gave rise to all the psychedelic rock groups of the 60s, they were more strongly influenced by R&B and country music from the South. They took the rough, earthy, unpolished sounds of genres like Southern rock and the blues and interpreted them through the sunny, wide-open lens of California culture. Footnote: R&B is short for rhythm and blues, which developed out of African American communities in the 1940s. Up until the mid-50s, R&B referred to the type of music that served as the basis for rock and roll. In the 60s, it came to refer to blues and rock and roll that incorporated electric guitar. Then, in the 70s, it was a term used to describe soul and funk music. And ever since the 80s, it has referred to the smooth sounds of urban contemporary music. Footnote: country music is a genre of music that has its roots in the American South in the 1920s. It is heavily influenced by American folk music and blues, and lyrics are often about working-class lives in the South. Footnote: Southern rock is a subgenre of rock music that brings together elements of country music, blues, and R&B. It was especially popular throughout the 60s and 70s. It is characterized by a distinctive country twang and lyrics about heartbreak, driving down the highway, and life down south. Footnote: blues are a type of music that developed out of African American communities in the American South. It has its roots in black spirituals and work songs, and at its core is characterized by acoustic guitar and lyrics about weariness, the facts of life, and soulful longing. The Eagles has its origins as the touring band for the queen of West Coast rock, Linda Ronstadt. Also integral to the West Coast conversation are Jackson Browne and J.D. Souther, who wrote or co-wrote numerous sounds for both Ronstadt and the Eagles. Footnote: Linda Ronstadt is an American singer with European and Mexican roots. She made her debut as a folk singer in the mid-60s. She toured with musicians like Jackson Browne and the folk singer Neil Young, and sang as a guest vocalist on many albums made by her peers. She had a major breakthrough with her fifth solo album in 1974, Heart Like a Wheel, and followed it up with numerous other hits. She became known as the First Lady of West Coast rock, and a pioneer for female rock musicians. Footnote: folk songs in the context of American culture refer to a genre of popular music that developed throughout the 1940s to the 1960s. It is characterized by the sound of instruments like acoustic guitar and banjo, and lyrics that reflected anti-war sentiment and the protest spirit. Footnote: Neil Young is a Canadian singer-songwriter. He came to prominence in the 60s as a member of the folk rock band Buffalo Springfield, and then embarked on a highly successful solo career. Behind his rough, gruff exterior is a delicate voice carrying layers of melancholy. He is also known for his environmentally conscious lyrics. In 2011, Rolling Stone magazine voted him 17th in a ranking of the 100 greatest guitarists of all time. After the Gold Rush. Young's rugged guitar sound and social message have never sounded so effective as they did in this, his third solo album. Rolling Stone magazine voted it 74th in its ranking of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Selected Linda Ronstadt discography. Heart Like a Wheel. This album is not only Ronstadt's breakthrough, but it is also one of the seminal albums of the West Coast rock of the 70s. Rolling Stone magazine voted it 164th on its list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Round Midnight. This 2-disc album brings together the 3 albums of jazz standards Ronstadt made with bandleader Nelson Riddle, who is best known for his work as an arranger for Frank Sinatra and Nat King Cole. All 3 albums went platinum, selling more than 1 million copies each. The Very Best of Linda Ronstadt. This single CD Best Of compilation brings together 21 classics from the queen of West Coast rock. 2. Jackson Browne, one of the greatest singer-songwriters to come out of the West Coast scene. Born in Germany and raised in LA, Jackson Browne started singing folk songs at clubs when he was a teen. After graduating from high school, he honed his craft in LA and New York City, while also working as a staff writer for a record company and penning songs for other musicians. He made his solo debut in 1972 with his self-titled album, Jackson Browne. Browne is known for an illustrious solo career, but is just as well known for his talents as a songwriter. Perhaps most famous is Take It Easy, a song he co-wrote with the Eagles' Glenn Frey, and in 2004 he was voted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He has also appeared numerous times with contemporaries like Bruce Springsteen, and for a long time has been involved in environmental activism. Rolling Stone magazine has called him the most accomplished songwriter of the 1970s. Selected Jackson Browne discography. The Best of Jackson Browne. This single-disc best-of compilation, which compiles one song from each of Browne's albums, is a fine introduction to the artist. The Pretender. Released after Browne's first wife committed suicide, the album is characterized by a sense of despair. The title track satirizes the emptiness of LA suburban life. In 2003, Rolling Stone magazine ranked this 391st in its list of the 500 greatest albums of all time. Hold Out. Released amid the disco boom, this album received lukewarm reception from American music critics for incorporating synthesizers. Nevertheless, it became the only album by the artist to take the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. Late for the Sky. Browne's third studio album was recorded along with his touring band at the time. The stripped-down sound and the gloom and doom lyrics are early Browne at his finest. Eagles drummer Don Henley and J.D. Souther appear to provide some wonderful vocal harmonies. The Broadcast Archive. Classic live recordings from the 1970s to 1990s. This 4-disc set compiles recordings of Browne's radio performances between the 70s and 90s. The sound quality is par for the course for radio recordings, but Browne's songs are as powerful as ever. 3. The Sixth Eagle, J.D. Souther. J.D. Souther, sometimes considered the Sixth Eagle, was also an integral part of the West Coast scene of the era. Souther is a singer-songwriter born in Detroit and raised in Texas. Initially interested in jazz in his youth, he became charmed by country rock after moving to LA in the 60s. In LA, Souther met Glenn Frey, who later became lead singer and guitarist of the Eagles. The two became roommates and started writing songs together. It was through working with Frey and Linda Ronstadt that Souther would realize his musical style. He found that while country and country music seemed primitive on the surface, the styles had deep, thick roots with a wealth of creativity to mine. Souther is also highly regarded as a songwriter who has provided songs for many musicians, including the Eagles and Linda Ronstadt. His contributions to the Eagles include Best of My Love, Victim of Love, Heartache Tonight, New Kid in Town, and How Long. Footnote: Country rock is a genre that hit the mainstream between the 60s and 70s. While the term Southern rock is mostly used to describe musicians from the American South, country rock is a subgenre that brings country elements into rock music and has been used to describe the music of rock bands from around the US and UK. Souther has penned music not only for Linda Ronstadt but also for blues singer and guitarist Bonnie Raitt. Footnote: Bonnie Raitt is an American blues singer and guitarist. She started her career in the 70s and is known for music that fuses blues, rock, folk, country, and more. While not the kind of artist set on producing commercial hits, she's been recognized for her musicality and high level of technical skill as a guitarist. Starting the late 70s, she began to incorporate pop sounds into her music, and she made her commercial breakthrough with her 1989 album, Nick of Time. In the 90s, she released a series of Grammy Award-winning albums. She's also known for her commitment to political and social activism. Souther is perhaps best known for the title track from his 1979 album, You're Only Lonely, which became a bona fide hit on the US charts. In Japan, the song was used on the soundtrack for the film Nami no Kazu Dake Dakishimete, and in commercials for the Mitsubishi Outlander. The song is one of the best-known hits of the AOR genre, and has the kind of sentimental sound that pulls at the heartstrings of the Japanese. Selected J.D. Souther discography. You're Only Lonely. J.D. Souther's third album features his greatest hit, the titular You're Only Lonely. Jackson Browne provides backup vocals, and the single took the #1 spot on Billboard's Adult Contemporary chart. Also on the album are 2 songs Souther co-wrote with Glenn Frey from the Eagles. Home by Dawn. The popularity of country rock had waned in the early 80s, resulting in a lukewarm reception upon release, but this is an underrated gem. Linda Ronstadt and Eagle drummer Don Henley also provide backup vocals on some of the tracks. Selected discography from Bonnie Raitt. Home plate. Raitt's 5th album still retains her gritty blues rock sound, albeit with a more refined, pop-leaning twist. Jackson Browne and J.D. Souther provide backup vocals on some tracks, and the latter also wrote the song Run Like a Thief. Nick of Time. By the 80s, while Raitt had achieved recognition as a blues rock musician, she'd yet to have a bona fide commercial hit. After moving to Capitol Records, she released this, her 10th album and the biggest hit of her career. It garnered her wins for Best Album, Best Female Pop Vocal, and Best Female Rock Vocal at the 1990 Grammy Awards. The Best of Bonnie Raitt. This Best of compiles 18 tracks, covers, and originals from Raitt's output on Capitol Records. 4. For this second entry in our series on the music of California, I wrote about psychedelic rock and country rock, as well as Jackson Browne and J.D. Souther, 2 seminal musicians in the development of the California sound. Music and Parties 11. The country rock and blues rock of the 1970s. An Introduction to West Coast Rock 4. www.digtokyo.jp